There are events that defy every scientific explanation we have. Phenomena that happen in front of witnesses, get documented by experts, and still make absolutely no sense. We're not talking about blurry UFO photos or ghost stories your uncle tells at Thanksgiving. We're talking about verified mysteries that scientists have studied for decades and still can't explain. In 1977, astronomer Jerry Eman detected a radio signal from space that was 30 times stronger than background noise, lasted exactly 72 seconds, and came from a point in space where nothing exists. He wrote, "Wow," on the printout. Scientists have searched that same spot with more powerful telescopes for 46 years. The signal never repeated. No natural phenomenon produces that signature. No known technology could broadcast it from that distance. The wow signal remains completely unexplained. In 1994, hundreds of students at a school in Zimbabwe saw a silver craft land near their playground. 62 children, ages 6-12, independently described the same thing, a silver disk, strange beings, and telepathic communication about environmental destruction. BBC journalists interviewed them separately. Their stories matched. Psychiatrists evaluated them. No signs of delusion or coaching. Harvard professor Dr. John Mack studied the case extensively. His conclusion: these children experience something real that we cannot explain. A swarm of bees suddenly abandoned their hives worldwide in what scientists call colony collapse disorder. Bees left their queens and larvae behind, something bees never do. It happened simultaneously, across continents. Billions of bees just vanished. Scientists tested for disease, parasites, pesticides, radiation. Nothing explained why bees would abandon their most fundamental instinct. It still happens today. We still don't know why. But here's what should terrify anyone who trusts that science can explain everything. These aren't ancient mysteries or folklore. These are modern documented phenomena that happened with witnesses, got studied by experts, and remain completely inexplicable despite decades of investigation. The universe contains mysteries that our current understanding of reality cannot accommodate. This is 7 unsolved mysteries that cannot be explained, why each one breaks our understanding of how the world works, and why the explanations scientists have tried make the mysteries even stranger. 1D. Toes. Hume. The sound that only some people hear since the early 1990s. About 2% of people in Taos, New Mexico, report hearing a persistent, low-frequency humming sound. It's constant, it's maddening, and nobody can find the source. Here's what makes it inexplicable. Acoustic engineers have measured for it. They find nothing. Directions and patterns. Some hear it start at exactly 7 p.m. every night. Some hear it louder indoors than outdoors. Some can only hear it in specific locations. Move 100 feet, it disappears. Move back, it returns, but it gets stranger. Audio equipment can't detect it. When researchers bring sensitive microphones to places where people report the hum, the instruments register nothing. Zero. Complete silence. Yet people standing right there clearly hear it. This isn't tinnitus. Tinnitus is internal. People with the hum can point to where it's coming from. They agree on the direction, but there's nothing there. The attempted explanations all fail. Underground gas lines. Checked. The hum predates the gas infrastructure. Military equipment. Investigated. Nothing correlates with military activity. Electromagnetic sensitivity. Tested. The hum occurs in electromagnetically shielded rooms. Mass hysteria. Impossible. People report it independently before knowing others hear it, and they describe identical acoustic properties. The Taos hum isn't unique to Taos. Windsor, Ontario has it. Bristol, England has it. Bondi, Australia has it. About 2% of people in various locations worldwide hear a persistent hum that instruments cannot detect and science cannot explain. It's real enough to drive some people to suicide, but it's invisible to every method we have for measuring sound. You either hear it or you don't. There's nothing you can do to stop it. If you don't hear it, you'll never know what 2% of the population is experiencing. And we have absolutely no idea what causes it or why only some people can perceive it. 2. The Hessdalen lights, unexplained aerial phenomena, under continuous scientific observation. Bright lights appear in the sky several times per week. They hover, accelerate instantly, move in patterns that defy aerodynamics, and sometimes follow vehicles. This has been happening continuously since at least the 1930s. And scientists have been actively studying it with instruments for 40 years. Listen carefully to why this is different from UFO stories. This isn't witnesses seeing something briefly. There's a permanent research station with cameras, radar, spectrum analyzers, and magnetometers recording these lights 24/7. The data is publicly available. The lights appear on multiple instruments simultaneously. They're real, physical phenomena producing measurable effects. It's not ball lightning, wrong behavior patterns and duration. It's not aircraft. The movements would require impossible G-forces. It's not military. Norway's military has investigated and found nothing. It's not combustible gases. The lights appear in conditions where combustion can't occur. It's not plasma. The energy requirements would be astronomical, and there's no source. But here's what makes scientists genuinely uncomfortable. The lights sometimes respond to observers. Multiple researchers report that the lights seem to react to human presence, approaching when people arrive, moving away when approached, even appearing to follow vehicles. This could be coincidence, but it's happened hundreds of times in documented incidents. The lights behave like they're aware of being observed, and the phenomenon is spreading. Similar lights have been reported in Marfa, Texas, and Brown Mountain, North Carolina, with similar unexplainable characteristics. Permanent observation stations in multiple locations recording phenomena that violate known physics, and the scientific community just doesn't talk about it, because acknowledging it means admitting we have no framework to explain it. 3. The Mpemba effect. Hot water freezes faster than cold water, and nobody knows why. One is hot, one is cold. Sometimes, not always, but reproducibly under certain conditions, the hot water freezes first. This violates basic thermodynamics and makes no sense whatsoever. You can test this yourself right now. Boil water. Let it cool to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Take water at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Put both in your freezer in identical containers. Run it multiple times. Sometimes the hot water freezes faster. Science has known about this since Aristotle mentioned it 2,300 years ago. We still cannot explain why it happens. Here's why this is deeply disturbing to physics. Heat is molecular motion. Cold water has less molecular motion. It should require less energy removal to freeze. Hot water has more molecular motion. It should require more energy removal. The hot water should always freeze slower. But it doesn't, and hundreds of experiments confirm this. The attempted explanations don't work. Evaporation doesn't account for sealed containers where hot water still freezes faster. Convection currents don't explain why it happens in some conditions but not others. Dissolved gases. Hot water has fewer dissolved gases that should make it freeze slower, not faster. Supercooling doesn't explain the consistency of the effect. But here's what makes physicists lose sleep. This isn't a tiny anomaly. Under the right conditions, hot water freezes up to 30% faster than cold water. That's not measurement error. That's not experimental noise. That's a massive violation of what we think we understand about thermodynamics. And it happens in your freezer. Anyone can reproduce it. Nobody can explain it. A 2020 paper in Nature proposed an explanation involving hydrogen bonds, but other physicists immediately found problems with it. The effect remains unexplained. Water, the most studied substance on Earth, is doing something that shouldn't be possible according to the laws of physics as we understand them. And we use water every single day without knowing why it behaves this way. 4. The Baltic Sea Anomaly, a 200-foot circular structure on the ocean floor that resembles nothing natural. A Swedish diving team using sonar detected a 200-foot circular formation on the Baltic Sea floor at a depth of 300 feet. It has perfectly straight lines, right angles, and a geometric structure that looks artificial. Multiple dive teams have visited it. It's definitely there, and it makes no geological sense. Here's what makes this genuinely strange. The formation sits on a pillar, elevated above the seafloor. There are drag marks leading to it, as if something scraped across the ocean floor before stopping at this location. The top surface is covered in what looks like soot or volcanic ash, except there are no volcanoes in the Baltic Sea and haven't been for millions of years. Rock samples from the structure don't match anything in the surrounding area, but the technical anomalies are what's truly bizarre. Multiple divers report electrical equipment malfunctioning when directly over the structure. Cameras fail. Sonar gets interference. Satellite phones lose signal. Move 100 feet away. Everything works fine. Move back over the structure. Equipment fails again. This has been documented repeatedly by different teams with different equipment. Geologists have examined it and found no natural explanation. It's not a meteorite impact, wrong shape and composition. It's not glacial deposit. The Baltic glaciers moved in the wrong direction to create that formation. It's not volcanic. There's no volcanic activity in that region. It's not sediment buildup. The geometric precision is inconsistent with natural sedimentation. The artificial explanation has problems too. When the Baltic Sea floor in that location has been underwater for at least 10,000 years before any known civilization had the technology to construct something this large underwater. If it's more recent, what technology could build a 200-foot structure 300 feet underwater, and why? No record of such construction exists. And here's what keeps investigators returning: natural formation, wrong geometry, and wrong materials. Ancient construction, wrong time period. Modern construction, no records and no purpose. Meteorite, wrong composition. Each new investigation provides more data and more questions. It's sitting there right now, 200 feet in diameter, perfectly geometric, causing consistent electrical interference, and nobody can explain what it is, how it formed, or why equipment fails when directly above it. In 5, the dancing plague of 1518. Hundreds of people danced themselves to death. A woman named Frau Troffet began dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, France. She danced for 4 days straight without stopping. 34 others joined her. 400 people were dancing uncontrollably. Heart attack or stroke. Dozens died. This is documented historical fact. City records detail its SEVI. Physician notes describe it. City council minutes record the official response, which was to build a stage and hire musicians, believing the dancers needed to dance it out. That made it worse. More people joined. The dancing continued for over a month before it stopped as mysteriously as it began. Here's why modern science cannot explain this. Ergot poisoning doesn't match the symptoms. Ergot causes convulsions, not coordinated dancing. Mass hysteria? People don't die from mass hysteria, and the phenomenon lasted too long. Collective delusion? You can't delude yourself into dancing until your heart stops. Religious ecstasy. The dancers were terrified and begging for help while their bodies kept moving. The dancing wasn't voluntary. Historical accounts describe people crying and screaming while their bodies continued to dance. They couldn't stop. Their feet were bleeding. They were clearly exhausted. But they kept dancing. Something was compelling, involuntary, sustained, rhythmic movement in hundreds of people simultaneously. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Similar dancing plagues occurred in Germany in 1374, in Netherlands in 1418, and in various European cities throughout the medieval period. Different locations, different times, same inexplicable phenomenon. Hundreds of people suddenly compelled to dance uncontrollably until they died, or the phenomenon stopped. But here's the detail that makes this genuinely terrifying. Modern medicine has no condition that matches these symptoms. No disease causes sustained, coordinated, involuntary dancing that people cannot stop even as they're dying. No psychological condition explains hundreds of people simultaneously experiencing identical compulsions that last for weeks. No toxin produces these effects. The dancing plague happened. People died. Authorities documented it. And 500 years later, we still have absolutely no explanation for what caused hundreds of people to dance themselves to death. 6. The Oakville blobs, gelatinous substance that fell from the sky and made people sick. 1994. Residents of Oakville, Washington woke to find translucent, gelatinous blobs covering their town. The blobs fell from the sky like rain, over sidewalks and grass, and everyone who came in contact with them got violently ill. This is verified by hospital records and government testing. Multiple residents went to the hospital with identical symptoms: dizziness, breathing difficulties, and severe nausea. A local doctor collected samples. The hospital laboratory tested them. The Washington State Department of Health tested them. The samples contained human white blood cells and bacteria typically found in human digestive systems. Let me be clear about how disturbing that finding is. Biological material containing human white blood cells fell from the sky and covered an entire town. The obvious question, whose white blood cells, has no answer. The material fell for 3 weeks in 6 different rain events. Each time, the same gelatinous blobs. The attempted explanations are worse than the mystery. Theory 1. It was jellyfish pulverized by military bombing practice and carried inland by wind. Problems. Jellyfish don't contain human white blood cells. The nearest military bombing range was 50+ miles away, and jellyfish material wouldn't stay gelatinous after being exploded. Theory 2. It was waste from an airplane toilet. Problems. Airplane toilet waste is blue from chemicals, doesn't contain jellied structure, and wouldn't fall over multiple weeks in localized events. The samples mysteriously disappeared from the testing facility. The remaining samples degraded before additional testing could be performed. The Washington State Department of Health closed the investigation without reaching a conclusion. The official stance: we don't know what it was. And here's what makes this stick in your mind. This happened in 1994. Modern forensic capability. Multiple samples. Hospital records. Government testing. And we have no idea what fell from the sky, where it came from, or why it contained human biological material. The people who touched it got sick. The mystery remains. It fell from the sky. It made people sick. It contained human cells. And 30 years later, nobody can explain what it was or where it came from. 7. The Tunguska event. An explosion 1,000 times stronger than Hiroshima that left no crater. 1908. Something exploded over Siberia with a force of 10-15 megatons, 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. It flattened 80 million trees over 770 square miles. The shockwave circled the Earth twice. Night skies glowed for weeks afterward, and there's no impact crater. No meteor fragments. No evidence of what exploded. Here's the scale we're talking about. The explosion was detected on seismographs worldwide. British observatories recorded atmospheric disturbances. People 400 miles away were knocked off their feet by the shockwave. Trees were flattened in a radial pattern extending for miles. The energy release was equivalent to 185 Hiroshima bombs, but there's no impact site. Meteors leave craters. That's how physics works. A meteor with enough energy to produce this explosion should have left a crater miles wide. Expeditions have searched the Tunguska site extensively. They found ground zero, the center of the blast pattern. But there's no crater, no large meteor fragments, just flattened trees and testimonies from indigenous people who witnessed a fireball in the sky. The attempted explanations get progressively stranger. Theory 1. It was an asteroid or comet that exploded in the atmosphere before impact. Problem. The explosion was too powerful and too low altitude to match atmospheric explosion models. Theory 2. It was a small black hole passing through Earth. Problem. A black hole would have an exit event on the other side of the planet. There wasn't one. Theory 3. It was an antimatter meteor. Problem. Antimatter reactions look different and would leave different evidence. But here's what makes scientists genuinely uncomfortable. Whatever exploded did so at the exact altitude and location to cause maximum surface destruction while leaving minimal evidence. It exploded at approximately 5 NIST 10 kilometers altitude, high enough to avoid creating a crater, low enough to flatten everything on the ground. That's either incredible coincidence or something's wrong with our understanding of the event. And strange details keep emerging. Trees at ground zero remain standing, stripped of branches but upright. That's consistent with downward blast force. Trees further out were flattened, radiating outward. That's consistent with shockwave. But some trees show evidence of intense heat that doesn't match the blast model. And local reindeer herds disappeared completely. Hundreds of animals that should have been found dead were just gone. Tunguska happened 116 years ago. We have blast patterns, tree samples, soil samples, and eyewitness accounts. We can calculate the energy release precisely. But we still don't know what exploded, why it left no crater. Look, here's the thing most people don't want to admit. We live in a time where science supposedly explains everything. Ask a question. Science has an answer. See something weird. Science will explain it. We're told we live in a rational, understood universe where mysteries are just things we haven't studied enough yet. These mysteries aren't unsolved because we haven't looked hard enough. They're unsolved because they might require us to admit that our current models of reality are incomplete. That there are phenomena occurring that our physics, biology, and geology cannot accommodate. And that's terrifying, because it means we're not as close to understanding the universe as we think we are. It means reality contains possibilities we haven't imagined. It means the universe is still deeply, profoundly mysterious in ways that make most scientists deeply uncomfortable. These mysteries exist. They're documented. They're investigated, and they cannot be explained. Not won't be explained eventually. Cannot be explained using our current understanding of how reality works. And that should make you wonder, what else are we missing?